Traffic reporting in Google Analytics 4. Let's find out where your traffic comes from. This is one of the most important things to develop early on as a skill in Google Analytics 4 is figuring out where people are coming from when they come to your site, but also why. Why are they coming from those platforms? So let's dig in. First thing I always start with is the acquisition report. So we're in our demo account here in Google Analytics. Go to our reports tab and we're going to select acquisition and find our acquisition traffic report right here, traffic acquisition. So this by default shows you where people are coming from when they visit your website. So for example, by default, it's session channel group, default channel group. So we can change that to session source medium. And immediately you'll see, okay, now we can see people are coming directly. They're coming from Google. They're coming from cost per click Google ads. And they're also coming from our newsletter and other sources as well. That's a quick way to see where people are coming from. And this is the foundation of where we build on. This is the foundation that we continue to come back to and filter down to, okay, they came from this platform. What did they interact with, or why did they come from that platform? So moving forward, another thing that you can do here immediately is if you're not searching by session source or medium, you can filter down to session campaign. So what that does is it shows your direct traffic or the campaign names of your Google ads, Facebook ads, whatever ads you're running, or the campaign names of your email sequences. That'll also show you how much traffic is coming from those campaigns. From there, to further find out why your traffic is coming from those platforms, you can use a tool called the events report inside your engagement tab. So we go to the engagement tab here, we'll click events, and you will see your events here. And now what we'll want to do is, let's say we want to look at purchases alone. So we can do that by just searching purchases or purchase. It'll bring up purchase events. And what we do then is, again, we search by source medium, session source medium, and it'll give us an idea of where purchases are coming from. So how many purchases came organically? 820. And now we always need to keep mind of our date range. Top right here, September 5th to October 2nd. I cannot tell you how many times people have said to me, look, I put this data in, I'm looking for it in Google Analytics 4, it's nowhere to be found. Why isn't it coming in? And they don't realize they haven't checked their date range at the top right. Okay, always check your date range, make sure it's correct. And to do better analysis, I'd always say increase your rows per page. Just make it 250, look at more data to make sure you're not missing it either. Some people will say, oh, look, I created this event, it's not coming in, where is it? Well, how many rows per page are you showing, right? If your event that you just created only has like two interactions, well, it's not going to show up on the first page if you've got many events. So remember to do that as well. After you've seen what events people are triggering and from what platforms they've come from, you can also look at your pages and screens. This is also under the engagement tab. You look at pages and screens and you can see which pages people are obviously interacting with your website on. So we can see here, Google plus redesign, apparel, men's, right? We see the views, we see users. Again, we can filter this down to traffic source medium. Let's go session source medium, and we'll look for that same page. Apparel, men's, we have direct, none, so people going straight to the website. They're entering in the address in their URL. Redesign apparel, there's also Google CPC. So from this page, we see the amount of traffic that came to that page from Google, but also a paid ad. That's important. Now you can do the same sort of thing too with the landing page report, also under the engagement tab. This is where users are landing. So again, we go to session source medium. And we will see that people who come from our paid ad, our paid Google ads, they'll land on Google redesign. So we obviously have an ad that's sending them directly to that website. So you can see how this is useful to look at what's coming in and figure out why your users or why the traffic looks the way it does, and further details on what to keep investing in, what to push more of. That's the whole point of all this. I would say use these basic reports. Again, you're most of the time going to search by, you're gonna pick up events, for example, right? You're gonna filter down to that same thing, the session source, medium, or session campaign, whatever it may be. You choose your date, you come down 250 rows, and what you do is you say, okay, event name, I'm gonna go by traffic source. I'm gonna go session source medium, like we did before, and you're gonna pick out the event you wanna look into. So let's say it's scroll. And we find just the scroll data. Now this only tells you so much, right? Scroll, Google cost per click. Well, what if I wanted to compare the different campaigns from my Google paid ads, and I also wanted to see which of those users who clicked on the Google paid ad ended up scrolling, right? We want to see more information. How we do that is we use the Explore Reports function in our Google Analytics 4 account, okay? So what we'll do then is we will go to the Explore tab right here. Before I do that, I want to make one last note. The reason why we've been jumping to the filtering of event names by session source medium, or going to our traffic acquisition report and also filtering by our session source medium, is that when we're doing this, we are figuring out not only where they came from, but why, right? The medium is the why. So cost per click, well, it was a paid ad, right? Newsletter, okay, it was an email sequence. We got them signed up. It was a lead. So that's why we like to use session source medium for almost all filters on the basic reports. Now, continuing on, if you go to the Explore tab, you can fine tune that data. You can use session source medium and build it out. So let's create a blank canvas here to start with. Freeform is the default. It's what we start with when we're building something from the ground up. What you're going to need to do is you are going to need to add dimensions and metrics. The dimensions will go in the rows field and the metrics will go down here in the values field. If you want to compare further, you can add columns too. Depends on how you want the data to look. But for now, let's look at, I want to analyze how many purchases are coming from our email sequences. So what we do first is go to dimensions. We add e-commerce data. So what we're going to need is, let's go for the order coupon. And let's upload the item name. Might as well. At the same time, let's grab traffic source. Let's get session source medium. Let's do session campaign. We might as well do session manual term and session manual ad content. We might use that. Then for metrics, let's add e-commerce purchases. Let's do that. And let's do purchase revenue. Let's import those. So now what we're going to do is let's add our metrics in. So the metrics are obviously the quantity of what we're measuring. So if we're measuring, let's say, an event name, and we would choose page view, well, we would use event count as a metric. So for values here, let's add in e-commerce purchases. So we can see that we have 3,350. And what's our date range? Our date range, again, is September 5th to October 2nd. Always check that date range. Let's add in our session campaign in our rows section. So let's do session campaign, and then let's do session source medium. So now already you will see, we can see how many purchases came from organic traffic, how many purchases came from our July newsletter, how many purchases came from our cost per click ads, and that being differentiated between session campaigns. So how do we break this down further? Well, I said to you before I wanted to analyze email sequences, right? Email campaigns. So let me show you how we can do that with the Explore reports. We've shown here now where purchases come from and why they came from that platform. But let's also dive into how we can compare the performance of two different mediums, being email sequence, right? Let's look at the segments functionality. So in UA, it was, and when I say UA, I mean Universal Analytics. It's obviously been deprecated now. In UA, it was audiences, but now in Google Analytics 4, we can build segments. You can still build out an audience, but they're used as segments across the platform. And so what that means is we can compare different newsletters in this report that I've just built. So let me show you how to build a segment. We have the opportunity to create a user segment, a session segment, or an event segment. For now, we'll create a session segment and you'll see how this works. So let's start off by grabbing our traffic source, and that will be session source medium as per usual. And let's add a filter. So contains, let's first start off with our September newsletter. Let's apply. And I'll just name this September newsletter. We can see that 1.5 thousand people came from that newsletter to our website over the past month. Total sessions, 4,000. So let's save and apply. So it'll be added to the report immediately. So what we can see here is the September newsletter. How many purchases? 176 came from this campaign in September, 19 came from this campaign, and 1 came from this campaign. You can see here the differentiator being version 1, version 2, and then this is a different campaign altogether, it seems. So they were making changes to this throughout the process. So let's add some very meaningful data to this. Let's compare September newsletter with the July newsletter. So let's add that segment, session segment, add a condition, traffic source. Let's go to session source medium, add filter again, and let's do the July newsletter. How many people on this one? 300, so a lot less. Let's see how that adds up. So let's save and apply. Actually, I'm going to name it first, July newsletter. Save and apply. Interesting. So purchase is coming in from September versus July. Big difference. July newsletter, 349, total 52, 196. Big difference. This is how you compare the performance between the two. You could do this with Facebook ads. You could do this with TikTok ads. You can do this with just general UTM campaigns, right? If you want to measure the difference between affiliates, right? Now, obviously, this is a big difference here. So it's harder to make insights on why which one was effective, but you can still make meaningful insights from this. And I might be able to add, let's see here, session manual term. Can add more data to find out what's going on. Not provided, not set. Okay, those were not set for that. We'll leave that alone. We will try session manual add content. Most likely not added either. Oh, we have add content. So interesting. So now we can see that the order now button on the email campaign for September newsletter got 66 purchases, whereas for the same email newsletter, the same campaign, the Global 5K banner got 28 purchases. So you can see how adding that extra layer of data shows us why the September newsletter was more beneficial in terms of revenue, because some of the iterations performed better than others, and that being the order now button, especially over the Global 5K banner. But if we look at the July performance, we will also see July didn't do very well. But again, to wrap this up, this is the type of data that's really going to drive decisions in the online business. Seeing which content actually led to purchases, seeing which content actually led to leads, seeing which platforms you use in your marketing stack are actually driving people to your website, and which of those people are actually converting. Again, it helps you understand how to better resonate with your target audience and optimize every part of your sales funnel and your operations in general.